Thanks for tuning into the Hidden Tracks podcast. You can find us wherever you find podcasts or listen to music. When you have an opportunity, please give us a 5-star review, write a little note, tell us how we're doing. We really appreciate it. It helps us keep this thing going. If you want to reach out to us, you can find us at Facebook at Hidden Tracks. Instagram is at HiddenTracks99, and if you'd like to send in submissions or talk to us or give us any feedback about what we're doing, our email is myhiddentracks99@gmail. Thank you so much again for tuning in, and I hope you enjoy the show. What's up, everybody? I have Blake Morgan here today. Very excited to have him on. We talked about him on our weekly threes of music we were listening to. He's a musician, singer, producer, record label owner, activist. I mean, there's too many to continue going on, but I just want to welcome to the show. Blake, thanks so much for joining us today.
Hey, thanks for having me.
It's our absolute pleasure. So as I mentioned, you were on our weekly threes. This is what I love about it. I find music, I listen to it, I fall in love with an artist, and I tell everybody else about what I'm listening to. And you and I were able to connect after that, and just very excited to have you here.
Oh, there's nowhere else I'd rather be. This is going to be fun.
Awesome. So let's I rambled off a couple things that you do. I found you because of your music. So let's start there, and let's start how you got into music, your early life. I'm sure you're probably like all of us in the world, 9 billion people, started probably on piano lessons forced to somebody. But how did you start getting into music?
Yeah, that's actually fairly accurate, except without the forced part. I grew up on the Lower East Side in Manhattan. My parents are both writers and artists, and we had a piano, and I was, they really kind of threw everything wonderful at me, whether it was literature or cinema or music or painting or dancing. I was just inundated in this real kind of artist community, artist nexus in the Lower East Side when I was growing up, and of course, music was a huge part of that. Listening to music and also playing music, and I used to sit on my dad's lap. He would write the names of the keys in wax pencil on the piano, and I would start picking them out. And there's just really not a time I ever remember not playing music or even writing music. It's some people ask musicians often, how did you find music? And in my case, really, music found me. I just there's no, I don't remember when I started breathing, and I don't remember when I started making music and thinking about music. And so it's really, but it did start on the piano, and I was going to music school as a young kid, 4 or 5 years old, and playing the piano. And I think for a while, I really thought that that's what I was going to be doing, in a fairly serious way. Playing recitals and kind of getting on that track of trying to be a serious pianist. And but I found that my focus was always on writing music more than it was on playing music. And so I was writing pieces for the piano, just kind of in a very Chopin-esque way as a 5 and 6 year old, and the writing kind of took over the desire to be kind of on a concert level as a piano player very early on, and then soon after that, rock and roll supplanted other things on my turntable at the time, and specifically the Beatles. And I honestly really never looked back. Then it was really writing songs and developing, even at early and yes, awkward stages of my development. Really developing into the musician I am today. So it's really definitely left turns here and right turns there, but I've really kind of been on the same musical path really since I was a 4 and 5 year old kid, which is I love writing and making music, and then I love when that music hits an audience, and I get that engagement and synergy. It's really just never changed, honestly.
Yeah, and I mean, you started back. I mean, you say the Beatles hit you. One of the things I like to find, I mean, because the Beatles are synonymous with a lot of people falling in love with music, right? But at what point did you start to find your own niche in listening to music and finding music other than the Beatles? And do you have some things that you remember hitting you differently than others that would lead you down a path to kind of the rock and roll that you play right now? I kind of described you, and I always hate trying to describe somebody because I don't want to offend them if they don't like somebody. But I said to a friend when I was like, listen, you got to listen to him. I'm like, if you liked Jellyfish or Roger Joseph Manning, I'm like, it's like Jellyfish meets
Yeah.
Lenny Kravitz meets Tom Petty writing. I'm like, that's where I was. And he's like, all right, that's a lot to live up to. But they listened to it and they loved it. So I was like, all right, I was on to something. But
Totally. Those are great artists that have all meant an enormous amount to me. The Beatles, 50% of my rock and roll musical DNA is Beatle DNA. But this most recent record, specifically Violent Delights, I think I'm drawing on some of the influences really kind of for the first time, or they've always been in there, but a little bit more directly. I'm drawing on influences when I was kind of a teenager, and that includes a lot of post-punk music. So that includes bands like the Cars and the Police, and that's found its way in there as well. And there's a real there's a crossover between some of those bands and the Jellyfishes of the world. Jason Faulkner, who was in Jellyfish and is a solo artist, is a huge hero of mine. Not only just as an artist, but as a producer and as a multi-instrumentalist. And, obviously that's where that's how my musical life has evolved. I play a lot of instruments, and I make a lot of records for myself and for all the artists that I work with, which is the foundation of the record label that I founded. But, I'm very interested in artists who do many things. And you mentioned Lenny. Lenny sings a duet with me on my first record.
yep.
So he's I've I'm very interested in musicians who play a lot of instruments and work with a lot of different people in a lot of ways. But I think some of those influences, the Police for sure, um, and some of those early '80s post-punk bands. I mean, listen, man, I'm not shy or ashamed at all to say I spent like two days ago. I spent much of the morning like jumping up and down in my recording studio listening to Duran Duran at like 10. So
I
um,
get it.
not something you're necessarily going to hear every day, but you should because they were great. But there's just a lot of bands from that time that I've kind of reconnected to, that I was interested in when I was 12 and 13 years old, that I'm now I became kind of interested in again, and also more modern bands that echo those bands, like Spoon. Spoon is a huge influence on me, and Phoenix. So there are those eddies continue to those ripples continue to hit my shore of influence for sure.
Now, and doing what you do and producing and falling in love with music, I mean, is that what just continues to drive you, where you don't know what someone's going to bring forward to you and how it's going to turn out? Is that like the magic that you hold on to constantly to continue doing what you're doing?
So, Shane, I love music so much, and I love records so much. There are times that it actually frightens me. Like, I just love making records so much. I love performing. Um, in December, I wrapped up, a period of my life that began before the pandemic. It was even through the pandemic, and as we've emerged since, a period where I put 175,000 miles on the road on tour, performing over 200 shows on each side of the Atlantic, a 30 show sold out run here at my home base at Rockwood Music Hall in New York City. So I love performing, but making records in the recording studio, there's just nothing I love more. I love making records that I've written for my own recording artist career, but I love working with other artists as well, and trying to, render the clearest representation of the vision that artist and I have come up with together in the studio. So, like, I love making music so much. I'm still that 4-year-old kid with the wax pencil markings on the piano, picking out melodies and harmonic content to support it, because it just, like, I have my hands on my head right now. I just love it so much.
And listen, I'm right there with you. I've been undertaking redoing my uh, basement studio and just going through all the music I have and just being like, I haven't listened to this in forever, and then I have to listen to it. One of my threes this week will be a band that I remember growing up to, who were very punky, who turned out went a completely different direction when they got popular and they got poppy. And I travel a lot for work, so I went on a 5-hour run of the Google Dolls, and I was just like, man,
Yeah, man.
they were so fucking good. I'm like, even their later pops, like, they were just so amazing. I'm like, I can't believe I haven't listened to them in probably 10 years. Like,
there are records, my brain works in different ways. So, as a songwriter, there are songs I love, and of course artists and singers I love. There are bands that I love. There are records and tracks that I love. There are records that I love because they sound so great, where I don't even necessarily like the songs on the record. Like, I would never, if someone sat in front of me and played me that song, I'd never be like, wow, that was great. I've described this new record of mine, Violent Delights, is like a cross between the Police's Ghost in the Machine and AC/DC's Back in Black. And if you listen to Violent Delights, there's not one 3-second period of that record that's going to make you say back in, like, oh, this totally sounds like Back in Black. It doesn't.
it doesn't.
But the production philosophy that Mutt Lange used to build that record is absolutely informative in how I made this record, how I recorded it, how I mixed it. And Back in Black is one of my favorite records of all time. And there are really like only 3 songs on that record I like, and 2 that I love. But it doesn't matter, because I start jumping up and down when that record comes on, and so, like, there are tracks and records that I love where I don't even believe in the songs, and and there are not a lot of examples for me where there are records where I love the songs, but I hate the way the record sounds and I love it anyway. Like the marriage of the composition and how it's been rendered onto a record, that combination and the art required to put those two sides of the coin, if you will, together, um, is what it's really what it's all about, to me, and I'm so excited about it, really more than ever, so, I honestly think I'm starting to get the hang of this. Haven't been doing this for 25 years. There's a great story about, um, Pablo Casals, one of the greatest cellists who ever lived. He was 90 years old, and the New York Times did a long story about him where a reporter followed him around for 7 or 8 weeks. And the reporter at one point says, Maestro, you're 90 years old and I see you're practicing 7 hours a day. Respectfully, if I may, why? Why are you practicing 7 hours a day? And Casals said, oh, because I think I'm really starting to get the hang of this. And that's kind of how I feel about making records. I've made a lot of them. But I'm so excited about the music that I'm making now with the artists that I'm working with in the studio. So it's, you can hear my excitement. I really am still like that little kid,
No, and that's, I mean, it comes out the way you describe it. And I think it's one of those things where if you stop, you kind of get into quicksand, right? And you don't continue to learn. And in today's world, with the way the music industry is and the way music releases and how every day you don't know what the new thing's going to be. If you stop and stand still for a minute, you're going to get passed by at 100 miles an hour.
Sure. I mean, that's kind of the third part of my brain. There's me as musician artist, and then part two is me as musician producer record maker, right? And then part three is label founder and president of ECR Music Group. And that whole part of it is really in connection to what you just said, which is, well, I've made this music now, my own or with an artist I believe in. Now we have to try to go win an audience for that artist, to find a way to healthily shepherd that art out into the world where it can win an audience, sustain an audience, grow an audience, and turn an audience on. Where people who would be looking for that music that might change their day or change their year or change their life, where they would actually be able to find it. Because we're making music, we're swinging a big bat, man. We're trying to make music that is really, really going to move people, that doesn't sound like the music on some other guy's record label or some other gal's record label. That sounds like the music that's on this label. And so once we do that and we commit to that so passionately, then we've got to go out and win an audience for that music. And that's the third part of my brain, which is label owner and music industry, mogul person, right? Where I'm trying to win that audience for the music that I believe in. But there's a great history of that in the music world. The music world is always mercurial and always changing fast. But whether it's Berry Gordy and Motown, or Ahmet Ertegun and Atlantic, or Johnny Mercer and Capitol Records, those were all labels that were founded by musicians who were trying to put a roof over the music that they were making, so that they could protect that music, and also so that they could, put booster rockets on that music and get it out into the world to find that audience, and that's really what I'm trying to do.
And what are your biggest struggles when it comes to trying to cultivate that, especially in today's musical landscape?
I mean, the challenges are many, but and the way that we navigate them, the challenges are many. So they're economic. They're a question of saturation. There's just so much stuff out there. How do you get above the white noise? You're dealing with multi-billion-dollar mega corporations, and streaming companies, big radio. You're dealing with social media platforms, many, if not most of which I am actively lobbying against on Capitol Hill with my music activism, with the I Respect Music campaign. So I have to dance with the devil with these companies without signing away my soul to them. But the way that I really try to navigate through all of them, around them, through them, with my team is it has to come from an absolutely unswayable belief in the music that we're actually putting out. We don't put music out on this label that I like. We put out music on this label that I make. And that means I am so invested in what we're doing with these records and the tracks on those records and the guitar parts on those tracks and the amps that we recorded those guitars on through to make those tracks all the way down. I'm so committed to it that commitment and that belief really powers me and the rest of the ECR Music Group team through to try to navigate the obstacles in order to try to win an audience for artists that many people have heard of and who are quite well known, and some artists who are just getting started, and some artists who are established but trying to get to another level. So it's the most difficult part of my day, because it's non-musical. It's using a different part of my brain, like I said, but it's also incredibly satisfying and equally satisfying when I see the music that we've made starting to catch fire and starting to to resonate with an audience. So it's very satisfying. But I really founded this label for the simple reason that I could no longer make music I believed in and then hand it over to people who invariably screwed it up. And I founded the label on my laptop, really saying, like, look, if anyone's going to screw this up, I will, and I'll learn from my mistakes and I'll get better at this. But I'll have no one to blame but myself and the people I bring on board, because I just can't hand a record that I believe in over to a promotion company or to another label and watch them fuck it up. I just can't do it. And so that responsibility of trying to protect and augment the art that we're making, it's a serious responsibility. I take it very seriously, but I wouldn't have it any other way. If I was making a record with you, the first thing we do is talk about what this record's about, why we're making it, what your vision for it is. Then start looking at the songs. Then start putting index cards on the floor. Well, storyboarding it like a movie. What does it sound like? What's it about? And then all the way through the record making process that leads to what's the story here promotionally? What are the photos like? What are the videos like? Who are we trying to reach? Fans of whom would be interested in this record? So it allows me to have this holistic approach, right from starting to talk about making a record all the way through to promotion and distribution and trying to win that audience. So, it's a long journey each time with each record, but at this point I just wouldn't have it any other way.
Do you take those steps with yourself when you're, coming up with your album? You sit there and you do the same exact thing for yourself as you do with other artists?
Yes, I do. And in fact, there isn't a great history, in my opinion, in rock and roll of people who produce their own records and play almost all the instruments. There are exceptions. Prince is an exception. There are others. But generally speaking, I don't think that there's a very rich history of that working particularly well. And I'm cognizant of that while now doing that. But I have to say, there also isn't a very large group of people who are recording artists, songwriters, multi-instrumentalists, recording engineers, record producers, and label owners. Jack White comes to mind. Some of the people I mentioned before, come to mind, but it's a very small group of people. And what it does is it affords me, being in that group of people, affords me an objectivity that allows me to be beautifully merciful with, I should say merciful, but I meant merciless, beautifully merciless and merciful with myself, just as I am with the artists that I work with. And also, I have a small group of people I really trust. I call it my red team. And when I'm finishing a record, I'm mixing a record, my own or someone else's, I send that to a group of half a dozen or a dozen people who have no idea what the record's about, to get a new first impression, where someone could say, this is great, but the vocals are just not loud enough. I can't understand what she's saying. Or, yeah, man, I'm not crazy about the snare sound. Or, I think you have the songs in the wrong order. Or, what the hell do you think you're doing? So that last thing doesn't happen a lot. But if it did, I would take it really seriously. And different people on my red team have different strengths And so I know what I'm going to get from them. And it helps me polish. It kind of helps me put the music I'm making on trial. And so I do that with my own records, just as I do with the artists that I'm producing.
And I love how you put it to, it could be in the wrong order, because I'm big on storytelling. I love, I'm an album guy, and I love the storytelling that an album can do. I've sat down and I've gone through records that I absolutely love, and it's a certain way that it was put together that I'm like, this could be so much better if the songs were in this order. And I've created, I'll sit here and I'll take it and I'll redo the album in the order that I think it should be in, and be like, wow, now this tells the story. And that's kind of, especially in today's landscape of music, where it's the singles game and it's falling in love. Sorry for people out there that hear me say this all the time. When I hear a song that I really like, and then I go to find the artist, and then they have 3 singles and that's it in a year and a half, I'm like, well, now I'm done with you, because I can't even follow up anymore.
Right.
There's nothing else for me to latch onto and fall in love with. Like when I found you through Violent Delights, and I was like, shit, he's got a catalog all the way back to 96. Let me just dive fully into this and listen to every single thing, and before I promote it. And that's how I do it. Like I have to listen to everything before I give you the okay, my thumbs up, if it matters at all, because I'm just an opinionated asshole from the tri-state area. So
well, no, I'm with you. The demise of the record has been greatly exaggerated. There's no way to be taken seriously in music. I'm sorry for how dogmatic that sounds, but there's just no way to be taken seriously in music over time while attempting to have a career, unless you're making records. Okay. So, singles are great. I release singles all the time. EPs are great. They have a real place, especially in trying to win an audience. And EPs can be really beautiful. But records are where it's at. That's the medium, and being able to put together a good record requires a lot of things and a lot of skill. And one of those skills is sequencing the record. You're right. And telling a story and understanding the keys that the songs are in. So you probably don't want 3 songs that are all in the E in a row. And you want to think about tempos, and you want to think about what the songs are about and what kind of a story you're telling, for sure. But the records that have changed my life made a difference to me that I can't even quantify. The order that those songs are in matters so much to me. They're memorized. When one song ends, I know exactly what's going to happen next. They're scenes in a movie, and I think about record making in terms of film all the time. And sequencing, the order that the scenes are in a movie really matter. They really pull you all the way through, right to the credits at the end.
Yeah, and I think a great song describes, and I may be one of the few, but if I hear a song for the first time and then I listen to it again, I automatically in my head come up with like a music video to it, because it's a scene. Like that's how I approach it, as that song is a scene in something bigger.
Absolutely, and I think that's right. I think that releasing a single is a lot like releasing the teaser for a movie. It's the preview, right? And how, but eventually you have to hand somebody something a little bit more substantial. You're going to have to hand them a full calorie. And I love that you connected with the most recent record of mine, but that made you go back and listen to other things. That's what I've wanted for my own career more than anything else, which is just that, a career, a catalog of music that would mean something and be consistent while evolving. I'm different than I am. I'm different now than I was when I released my first record. But when I hear my first record, I still really love that record. That's me. I was doing that. That's a good record, man.
It is a good record. I loved it. I was happy to go back and find something, because a lot of times you go back and you're like, wow, it's a huge departure from somewhere where they are now, and all I did was see you evolve. Like nothing crazy changed. It was just you evolved as an artist. And I was like, that's what I love. You just matured along the time that you were doing it, and you got better as you went.
Well, thank you. And that's what I'm hoping. And I'm hoping that people, the people who were there for me at the beginning of my career, I hope that they're still there now. They seem to be following along with the evolution. And again, bringing it back to where we started, like that's a Beatle thing as well. Like the Beatles evolved. I mean, more than any artist I can think of in rock and roll over the 8 years that they were recording records. I mean, it's astonishing, the evolution. But yet, their first record and their last record are equally great to me. And but they not only pushed their audience to evolve with them, they welcomed the process of evolution along the way. So I definitely want that, but I do want to have a career that also hangs together, you know, and more and more, once again, I feel like I might just be getting the hang of this, you know, more and more, I feel like it's starting to hang together, but that's what I want for the artists that I'm working with as well. I'm always thinking of, you know, the song and the track as part of a record, and that record as part of a career. And then that career as part of what we're trying to build with the label, which is a variety of careers that are, you know, that are each different from each other, but that are each trying to accomplish the same thing, which, you know, is essentially trying to leave the world with more good music in it than it had when each of us arrived.
Yeah. Now, this may be a little hard for you, but we just spoke about evolution, and you know, from earlier in your career to now, it'll be a tough question because I always pose it as a pick your favorite child. But if you had to pick a song from earlier in your career and then something off of Violent Delights that would best describe you as an artist for someone who has never heard you to listen to for the first time, like what do you think you would choose from earlier in your career, and what do you think you would choose now?
Well, I'll start with now. I mean, Violent Delights is really my favorite record that I've made, and you could put that on. The first song on the record is called "Down Below or Up Above." If you listen to that song and it connects with you, you're going to love the rest of that record. If that doesn't do it for you, there's other stuff on the record, but you might want to look somewhere else. Like there's a reason that's the first song on the record. So, I feel like you could drop a needle anywhere on Violent Delights, and I'd be happy with you doing so. So that's and. In terms of my first record, Anger's Candy, the first track on that record, Lately, is a great place to start with me. I love that vocal. I still love that song. I played it. I still play it. But my favorite song on that record is actually a song that not a lot of people talk about, and it's not the song I did with Lenny. It's not Lately. It's not It's Gone, which has been recorded by other people. It's a song called What I'm Wasting, and I perform it solo.
You son of a bitch.
And it's
that's the song I have written down right here
really?
for what I would play. I went over your albums and I was like, okay, this is what connects. And you know, I went What I'm Wasting, then All Your Fault off of Burning Daylight.
Love
and
All
then,
Your Fault, yeah.
Yeah. And
All Your Fault's really cool. That song I still play. That song is really about something. I think, and there's a great story about What I'm Wasting, which is unlike all of the other songs on that first record, Anger's Candy. Those are meticulously recorded and produced. I worked with my great friend Terry Manning, who recorded Led Zeppelin 3 and all the ZZ Top stuff. It's through Terry that I got to know Lenny. He's done Shakira. He's a great world-class producer. But I wrote What I'm Wasting while we were actually recording the record. And I knew I wanted to perform it solo. I'm a big Jeff Buckley fan, and I love his solo stuff. And I kind of wanted something like that on the record. And the idea was, instead of this sort of immaculately produced thing, that I would actually just sing it live. And so we set up, and I was playing through this great high watt amp, and I borrowed one of Terry's guitars that he had there, which happens to be this white Telecaster that Jimmy Page owned and played for many years. So I'm playing Jimmy Page's Telecaster at Compass Point Studios in the Bahamas. And we set up the microphone, and I was like, well, just give me a pass to kind of stumble through this and get kind of warmed up and situated. He said, great. And so I sing and play through the song, and Terry waves me into the control room, and I was like, actually, I'm just kind of warming up. Let me do it again. He's like, no, you're done. That's the one we're keeping. And I said, no, I'm just getting going. Like, I really, give me another pass. He's like, I'll give you as many passes as you want, and I'll record all of them, but that's the one we're going to end up keeping. And I did take it again. And I came back and we listened to both of them. And the very first time I really ever sang that song all the way through is what's on the record. He was right, and he was a very good producer with me in that moment, making sure I did not go over or erase the magic that actually it's a really special performance, and there's something about me um, reaching for the song and not really having it in my hands or in my throat yet, that you can really hear, not because I don't know it, but because I haven't. What happens is real. That performance is real, and I love that song. So yeah, I would say that song. I don't know that it's indicative of the rest of my career, but it's a special one. And when I hear it and when it comes on, I always smile because I know that I did it live and it was one take.
That's awesome. Now, I know you're busy today. I don't want to keep you very long. So couple more things. What is it that you're after doing 175,000 miles and traveling and playing and doing everything you do? What is it you're most excited for coming up in the future for yourself?
So I'm off the road this year. I'm going to pick up my show in New York in the fall, but I'm really focused on the stuff that I'm working on in the studio. I'm making a new record with Janata, who is one of our franchise artists. I'm making a record with Chris Barron, lead singer of Spin Doctors. He's got a beautiful new record that we're tracking right now. I'm remixing and remastering some other of the important records in our catalog. ECR Music Group is now partnering. We're just about to announce that we have a new partnership and a global label-wide publishing deal with Sony Music. So I'm going through the catalog and kind of dusting off some stuff, remastering some stuff for that. And I've currently just remastered the entire catalog with some deluxe editions of Black Emoji, who's another artist who's just come on board. So I'm really kind of turned on and excited to be a studio rat for a few months here after being a road rat, and like living in hotel rooms and stuff. So I'm actually really happy to be back in New York and in my lair in the studio working on these records and building these next chapters that are going to start coming out in the fall. Miles East is another artist. He's the drummer on Violent Delights. I played all the instruments on Violent Delights except drums, and I've made 30 records with Miles. And Miles, we just finished his new record. He's also a beautiful singer-songwriter, and that's going to be out early next year too. So, all these records that I'm making, I'm excited to just to kind of be in my bat cave, if you will, and making all this music. That's it's a nice kind of cool side of the pillow to be on, to be home and building up the infrastructure of the label even more than it has been, and making all these records.
Well, first and foremost, say thank you for what you do for other artists, and secondly, thank you for making the music that made me find you first. I mean, because that's ultimately what brought us together, and it really is something that I wish more people would have kind of the time that I dedicate. I've set aside time every single day to find music, because we talked about everything that's being out there and trying to get above the white noise, and you standing out above that was awesome for me. And for you to come on here is just an amazing thing to talk and tell your story. And I'm really excited to see what you do next, because you've already had that long tenured, and I can't wait for the next couple 10 years to come.
Well, thank you, Shane. That's incredibly kind of you, and I'm so glad my music found you, and that then you found me, and now I've found you. So I'm really happy to have been on the show, and you're in the tri-state area. So next time when I come back out and I do my first show back out here in New York, we'll have to make sure we get you to a show. Okay?
Yeah, no, I'll absolutely be there. I've been to Rockwood a bunch of times. I love that place. It's just a great, cool feeling for artists in that area to play at. So that's pretty awesome.
Totally.
But right now we're going to go into our weekly threes, where you first premiered, and we told people about you. It's three things we're listening to right now, and if you want, I can go first, or you can go first. We'd like to find out three things that you're listening to that you would like people to check out. Could be new, could be old, but it's three things you've listened to recently that you love.
Sure. So a record that I've really been listening to a lot is this record by this band called The Smile. And The Smile is actually Tom York and Johnny Greenwood from Radiohead with a drummer. And I listened to this record, um, with skepticism because I'm such a Radiohead fan, but I just love this record, and it's really informing this record that I'm making with Yanta right now. So that's one for sure.
Yeah, it's awesome, and it's been on here. It's what's funny is the past couple recordings we've done, people have put that up there because it is just one of those things it's just that good.
Yeah. Do I go again, or
yeah?
Oh,
No, give me your three. Yeah.
Oh, well, okay. So here's a weird one. So I've been listening to this French singer, Françoise Hardy, a woman who's been making records for 60 years. She started in the early 60s, and she's still making records. I listened to her first three records over the last couple of days, and I listened to her most recent record this morning when I was working out. So how do you like that? French chanteuse in the Blake Morgan. In the Blake Morgan Apple Music spinning today.
That's fantastic. We all have our things that we find and we fall in love with that people are like, huh? And you're
totally.
like, yep.
Totally. And I'll add a third one. Well, oh God, I just don't want to make your listeners think I'm insane, but but every day I'll just tell the truth. Every day I mentioned Duran Duran earlier, but every day around 6:00 or so, when I'm kind of shutting down, I wake up early these days, and I'm kind of burned, and I can't work anymore in the studio, and I kind of start unplugging my brain, if you will. My girlfriend and I start getting ready to make dinner and kind of settle in for the evening and whatever. And for the last, it's got to be like 2 years now. For the last 2 years, we listen to Django Reinhardt, who, if your listeners don't know, Django Reinhardt is one of the greatest guitar players of all time. He is. How do I describe what he's meant to guitar playing? But he comes from there's a gypsy influence in his music. He's an incredible jazz musician, and his music really spans the 30s, 40s, and 50s in France and then around the world. So I'm talking about like two kind of French ish artists here. But Django, not only is he one of the greatest guitar players and most influential guitar players, there are any number of interviews where Eddie Van Halen is talking about Django Reinhardt. When he was 18 years old, he was injured in a fire, and his left hand was irreparably damaged, and he lost the ability to use his fourth and fifth finger. So all of his playing is just with his index and middle finger. He really does everything he does with just two fingers. So he's an amazing acrobat on the instrument, but he's also just such a beautiful and amazing musician. And there's something about listening to music from the 30s and 40s around 6:00 every day that just completely clears my head. Whatever I've been doing gets me out of what I've been doing and kind of gets me into settling in for the evening and chilling a little bit. So
listen, you're not telling. I appreciate you telling the truth to all the listeners out there, but for me, I have my moments as well. In the morning, cooking breakfast or something, it's like the Temptations and the Drifters I listen to.
Yeah,
at nighttime when I'm winding down, I got Ella Fitzgerald, Billie Holiday, or a symphony on, just because I'm winding down, and I love that old time feel, and I love that old music. It always brings me back to growing up watching old baseball videos, right, of like Babe Ruth and the jazz in the background, and thinking about stuff like that.
Absolutely. It's funny. It's like the further into the future I live, the further back I'm listening. I'm listening to music now from the 30s and the 20s, separate of my classical music upbringing, but just like recorded music from the 30s and 20s, and watching movies from the 20s and the teens even. Like, so the further forward I go, the further back I'm reaching, which really informs a lot of the music. And if you look at the album cover of Violent Delights and the videos that I shot for that record, there's definitely this 30s and 40s sensibility, this kind of noirish kind of sensibility to all the visuals of it. So, but that's got to be the weirdest three that you're going to have for a while: The Smile with members of Radiohead, Françoise Hardy, and Django Reinhardt. How about that?
Hey, listen, this is why we do this, because we hope somebody goes out and listens to that and finds something that they never thought they would hear before.
Right.
And it doesn't matter if it's new or old. That's why I love it. I love to find out what gets someone going, and I'm going to go listen to those three things. I got 4 hours ahead of me in a vehicle, so that's what I'm going to be listening to.
Right
so
on.
I appreciate you sharing, and I thank you for the truth too. The truth to the story is amazing.
You got it, man.
But my three for this week, my first one is a band called Woodlock. The name of the album is called The Future of an End. They're an Australian, let's genre label it, every genre. They're pop, folk, rock and roll, indie, whatever you want. Mm-hmm. Fantastic band. That's who I'm listening to. Number two, I already mentioned them today because I did go on a hard deep dive run, the Google Dolls, and I was stuck on Superstar Car Wash. That album gives me everything I loved about the punk rock aspect of the Google Dolls and the pop aspect of the Google Dolls. To me, it's a perfect album.
Right on.
And last but not least, the Greeting Committee. They're out of Kansas City, Missouri. They're an indie rock band, and the name of the album is Dandelion, and they just dropped a new single called Anything But You, which is fantastic as well. But they do have albums, so I'm not shitting on the singles game at the end here. They do have albums, so I listened to all of it, but the new single is a banger as well.
Well, this is really cool. Now you've given me some music I need to go listen to.
Well, I hope you do. And again, thank you so much for being here. Thank you for being open and honest. And I can't wait to, one day do this again when your next album comes out, and everything you're working on. I'm excited for you. And again, thank you so much for what it is you do for artists. And thank you so much for putting the music that you make out there for us to all enjoy, love, shit on, whatever anybody wants to do. As long as they're listening to it, that's all that matters.
That's right. Well, thanks so much for having me, and let's stay in touch, Shane.
We absolutely will. And everybody, you know what time it is now. It's time to go out, listen to Blake Morgan, and have a great fucking time. Thanks again for tuning into the Hidden Tracks podcast. We hope you enjoyed this week's show. Don't forget to follow us on Instagram at HiddenTracks99. Also, send all your submissions myhiddentracks99@gmail.com. Tune in next week. You may find your new favorite band, and don't forget to go out and have a great fucking time.